And hey, we're going to go to somebody who is a favorite on these calls. He's on every call we have that we can get him, that is. So far, we've been able to get him on every one. I'm going to turn the call to my colleague, Keith Cooper, who's been ably manning the switch today, making sure we haven't had any Zoom bombers, thank God for that. And I'm going to turn it to Keith, and he is going to bring on our good friend, Mr. John Molson. And John has some very special information and kind of this ongoing series on the history of Immunocal. So I'm going to turn the call to Keith and John. Take it away, guys.
Well, thank you, John. And you know, it is a pleasure to do these calls with all of you. And thank you, Tracy, for that. You are certainly following in the footsteps of your father, and it's interesting. And you know, John Molson, that I saw Howdy McDaddy was hiding out here somewhere, but I don't see where he's at now. But you know, once again, using these products and this from Immunotech, and you know, you had that unique opportunity that I think everybody's a little bit envious of, is you got to spend time with the man himself, Dr. Bunos, and Patricia Conkshaven. And we're really looking forward to that call of getting you and Dr. Gutman and Dr. Conkshaven all together and recording that and being able to share that information, because that's what we all want to know. You know, why the things that make Immunotech so special is that science. It is that history. And there's no one better to share this with us than you, John. And I know you have something very special for everybody today as well.
Thank you, Keith. And a big welcome to everybody on the call. And if there are any first responders on the call with us today, thank you for your service. And thank you to both Keith and John and the team behind the team for all the great content. Now, being asked to participate and contribute content for these calls has made me reflect on the incredible opportunity I was given to be able to work alongside Dr. Bunos. So part of what I like to try and convey is what I was seeing, hearing, and learning from Dr. Bunos, watching this dynamic process of how he took simple observations and developed new ways of understanding things. This call is about one of those examples, a new way to think about the demand for glutathione in the real world. You'll remember, as we have said, Immunotech was a private research company prior to our merger and formation of Immunotech Research in 1997. When we formed the company, we took the research platform into new areas. It also gave me the opportunity to discuss a wide range of issues with regard to sports, performance, fatigue, overtraining, etc. with Dr. Bunos. These new collaborations and initiatives raised a whole new series of questions in the mind about the dynamics of glutathione metabolism in the real world. So this is what happened back in 1997, 1998 that helped Dr. Bunos look at glutathione metabolism from a new perspective. The first observation that intrigued him occurred when we ran the LAND study examining Immunical's impact on muscular performance. You'll remember that in this study we determined that we would use healthy young adults in their 20s. Now, while this study highlighted a number of important findings, Dr. Bunos zeroed in on one piece of data, the fact that we were able to increase glutathione on average by 35% in apparently healthy 20-year-olds. He explained to me that due to the fact that glutathione metabolism is tightly regulated, you would expect to see this type of increase in the elderly, given the fact that glutathione decreases over time. However, not in this population. So this was new to him in terms of looking at the influence of one aspect of glutathione's function on another. He thought about this for some time and hypothesized that since these participants were city dwellers, this may have placed an increased demand on their detoxification function, contributing to this apparent functional deficiency. The second piece of the puzzle came from our work in chronic fatigue with Dr. Paul Cheney. And Dr. Cheney was one of the co-discoverers of chronic fatigue. He ran a clinic in the US treating chronic fatigue patients. And he determined that the glutathione defect was a central piece of the puzzle in these patients and was trying to treat these patients with NAC. Due to a number of factors, they had trouble tolerating it. So we started supplying him with Immunocal so we could test it in with these patients. Our collaboration with Dr. Cheney fascinated Dr. Bunos. Among other things, he was interested in the aspect of myalgia or muscle pain in these patients. Now keep in mind that part of this stemmed from our discussions with regard to Immunocal in sports recovery, overtraining and muscle fatigue and pain that I talked to him about constantly. We learned from Dr. Cheney that chronic fatigue patients have chronically activated immune systems, which over time would decrease cellular glutathione and as a consequence, the glutathione precursors. So because we have a diminished pool of glutathione precursors available for the immune response, would this contribute to any other symptoms these patients were experiencing? The following is taken from a paper that Dr. Bunos published explaining how he viewed it. Because glutathione is essential to aerobic muscular contraction and undesirable competition for glutathione precursors between the immune and muscular systems may develop, it is conceivable that the priority of the immune response for survival of the host has drawn to this vital area the ever-diminishing glutathione precursors, thus depriving the skeletal muscle of adequate glutathione precursors to sustain a normal aerobic metabolism, resulting in fatigue and eventually myalgia. So the glutathione deficiency caused by the chronically activated immune systems may have reduced the amount of precursors available to sustain normal aerobic metabolism of the muscle, thus contributing to the pain and fatigue we see in this population. With these ideas in mind, Dr. Bunos published a paper titled Competition for Glutathione Precursors Between the Immune System and Skeletal Muscle, Pathogenesis of Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. His hypothesis was that a number of conditions may coexist, each of which places a demand on glutathione. Such conditions include production of endogenous oxyradicals during immune activity and strenuous muscular exercise, detoxification of foreign pollutants, and protection from ionizing radiation. It is conceivable that during a severe challenge, competition for glutathione precursors may lead to a single or multiple deficiencies. This represented an evolution of how Dr. Bunos looked at glutathione in our modern environment and the consequences of increased demand on glutathione pool without adequate supply of precursors. As I have told you, Dr. Bunos spoke to me about what we were currently facing 20 years ago. He told me that due to global warming, you will see the virulence of these viruses increase. Due to increased pollution, depletion of the ozone layer, you will see increased demand on the glutathione stores, taking away vital resources from the immune response, in essence, setting up the perfect storm. So I would conclude by saying we cannot control when and where the next virus comes from, but we can control our risk factors and ensure that our glutathione pool is optimized. Thank you.
But you know, John, as you're talking there, I'm not going to let you get away with that. Come on, I'm going to pull you back in here. You know, you made a comment about city dwellers and the pollution that was there. And in the environment we live in today, when we look at the word that we can't talk about on these calls that came out of a country out of Asia, and it's in all over the world today. And they talk about that it seems that the areas that have higher levels of pollution are the ones that are having the most trouble with that particular issue right now. And so detoxifying becomes more and more important on every passing day, right, John?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know, that Dr. Bunos spoke to me for hours and hours and hours on end. And it's insidious what pollution does to us. And nobody can really make money on it, so nobody heard about it. I mean, you know, I studied about nutrition as an athlete, but I never really understood the consequences of pollution until I started listening to Dr. Bunos and working with Dr. Bunos. And it's something that we all have to pay attention to, and it has big consequences for the population.
Well, you know, there was an article that came out about a year ago that, and it was Canadian. It was a Canadian article, but it really all over the world, that it doesn't matter whether it's baby food or cereal or anything in between, you're going to get glyphosate in it. And, you know, it's in absolutely everything. And so it just raises that issue of Immunical. You know, John Solider made a comment, you know, Immunical is no longer a choice. It's necessary. You know, it's a necessary product that we have to have in our lives today.
Yeah, it's an essential tool. And, you know, again, what Dr. Bunos taught me to think about was the global exposure to pollution across, you know, our different interactions with the environment. So through the food, through the water, through the air, and it's the cumulative effect of those exposures over time that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, and it's going to continue. You know, once again, everybody's, you know, you can wish for the best, but you want to plan for the worst. And that's why I share with everybody, you want to have your Immunical on hand. You don't want to wait until that last moment to reach out to it, because, you know, Dr. Jeffrey that made a comment, I have a statement and I believe it to be true. And that is Immunical works every time, given time. But sometimes time is not our friend, John.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, it's, again, what Dr. Brunos, the way he taught me to think about this, don't think in absolutes, but think about, you know, increasing your resiliency to these things by a few percentage points. And over time, that can make the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, we're really looking forward to getting you and Dr. Gutman and Dr. Conkshaven there to spend some time together. And John Solomon and I will, we're going to work on that list of those very special questions that everybody wants to know, because, you know, we have a product that changes people's lives. We have a product that is simply the single most important nutritional supplement you can use. So with that, John, final thoughts?
Well, it's, I just want to say that how impressed I was by Rodrigo's presentation. And, you know, the company, with leaders like that in place now, the company is in great shape. And he inspired me.
Well, you know, John, it is. Rodrigo and all the other people, you know, what Maurizio's done here, and by, you know, with the change of the company to lead, to actually take us to what your vision was all those years ago, to a box of Immunical on every shelf in America, in North America. I think that's where we want to be. So thank you, John. Thank you for being with us on this incredible Zoomtacular. Back to you, Mr. Solider.
Well, thank you, Mr. Molson, Mr. Hooper. As always, guys, extraordinary stuff. And you know, if you've been on all of these calls and you've taken everything that John has shared with us, I mean, he's the biographer really of this company, if you will. He has seen everything from day one before it was a company, as both an investor, an employee, a shareholder, executive, you know, coordinating the research studies, et cetera, et cetera. And John is just, you know, like Dr. Gutman. I mean, look, these guys are icons to what we do, and so vitally important to what we do, you know, and to support, you know, JC and Alberto and of course Mauricio in everything that they're doing every single day, and the rest of the executive team. I do want to thank, by the way, Morgan Binden. I know she helped to put this together today. My friend Morgan, who works for the company down in Houston. And thank you, Morgan. I know you're out there somewhere. I see you.